What's going on, guys? It's your boy Inheritor back again with another replay analysis. This is for StormZy. This is going to be game mode doubles at gold 1 rank. Wants me to look at Ariel's ball control, and he had comms with his teammate, or something along those lines. It doesn't appear that they're partied, but in his list he said communications with teammates, so I'm assuming they were using quick chat. I don't know, but let's get into it. Good kickoff. Opponent's AFK for some unknown reason. You really rushed your shot here. You didn't need to, especially since the other guy was probably going for boost. Yeah, so they were, oh goodness. Yeah, so they were going for boost. You had so much time. You could have just turned off your ball cam and controlled the ball into the net. Obviously your teammate got a hold of it. Barely. Okay, so this is fine. However, I can hear your teammates coming for this. I don't even have to look to see that they're coming for this, which leads me to say you should have looked to see if your teammate was going to go for that. So since you went for it, you just ended up blasting it into them because you, one, rushed your shot, but two, cut off your teammate. You really didn't have the time to get there. So make sure you're looking for your teammate to see what they're doing. Good job on the pass back. You should have grabbed that mid boost and rotated towards mid, not turned around here and you're right behind your teammate. One bad touch and it would have caused you to get scored on, probably. Luckily for you, it worked differently. So first of all, you took your teammate's boost. Not the worst thing to have done. But your jump here, you were going for it as if you were going to go for it where it was when you first jumped, which ultimately caused you to get a bad touch. You got to predict where the ball's going, not go for the ball where it's at. I don't know why you went for this. Sometimes it's not always a bad thing, but doing that could ultimately lead in a really rough situation. Lead to a really rough. I can't speak English. Could lead to a really rough situation. You really took a long time here. You could have already had that boost over there, and then you waited until they were at the ball to go for it, where you could have gotten a touch before them. Had you have gone for it right now and jumped for it, you could have beat them by far. You should be rotating back much faster than you are. You have 70 boost, and you can be flipping to save boost. So really make sure you're rushing back to net if you are on a defensive standpoint, because you left your teammate in basically a 2v1 situation, especially after they just sat there and watched Volcano hit it over them. So make sure you're going back as fast as you can, but try to save boost while you're at it. Otherwise, you're going to be putting yourself in a really rough situation in net with no boost. Good read there. Should have been your teammates' kickoff. I don't know why they didn't go for it. Again, you jump for it, but you're not predicting where the ball's going to go. You jumped. When you jumped, you were going for where it was at the time you jumped, and then you missed because you didn't predict where the ball was going, rather than going for it by predicting where the ball will be when you reach the ball. You're really close to the play here, which I understand why, because you were expecting your teammate to touch it there. However, that's really risky. You should be stopping at... The furthest you should be is right here, because this is... If they were to get a good touch towards the net, you could have easily boosted and gotten there. However, where you are right now, you could easily either half flip or turn around fast enough to get back if something were to happen. Based off of this, I'm assuming you don't know how to half flip, which leads me to say, please utilize my hashtag General Coach chat in my Discord server, and ask me to teach you specific mechanics such as the half flip. That's crucial for recovery. Really didn't have to go for this. You could have just kept going back to net and still would have had time to save the ball if they had hit it. But the fact that you turned for the ball right there could have very well led to a goal, because you put yourself way out of the play and your teammate's not even close to your half of the field at that period of time. So luckily that they missed, but make sure you're thinking out your options and predicting the play. You really rushed this touch, and you could have prevented that bad touch, by just stopping right here. And if you had kept driving forward, that's fine, but you're going really fast. You could have blasted this ball just by waiting it out and putting your nose into the car versus flipping really early. Right here, you grab the boost, which is fine, but you're literally right next to your teammate, where you should never be that close to your teammate. Again, you're cutting off your teammate, and then you leave the ball. If you're gonna go for the ball, follow it up. Right here, there's no reason for you to turn around. You should have kept going for it. Gave away ball possession. So, back to the quadrant situation. Or not quadrant, but the really close to your teammate situation. Try at all costs to avoid being in the same quadrant as your teammate. And when I say quadrant, look at the field. Try and put this in the... So you have your center mark, and then your very center circle, right? And you have these 4 lines extending out from the center of the field. Take these 4 lines and draw across, all the way across the whole field. That divides the field into 4 different sections. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are that's what I would call a quadrant. So, take that information, and now look where we are. You're right next to your teammate. just as much as the opponents are, but you're right next to your teammate and you shouldn't be. The closest you should be to your teammate right now is right about here. Not ahead of them, unless you're confident you can make a play happen. You're not directly beside them, but you're here. Only because you're still on your half of the field. Unless you know you have the opportunity to make a good play happen, yeah, maybe you could go here. Even still, you're not way out here. You're not going to be right next to your teammate because there's nothing you can do with this. Should be middle of the field at the minimum, if not further. And you should be slightly behind them, so if something does happen, you can turn around, half flip, whatever you need to do to get back to a defensive position. But since you were so close, first of all, if you were at the middle of the field, you could have made something happen with that ball that he just kind of threw. But now you've cut off your teammate, and then you go to leave the ball, and ultimately you gave away ball possession for that brief period of time. Again, you're hovering right around your teammate, you shouldn't be. Going for that was risky. Ultimately, it was fine. But going for that is risky, especially considering your teammate was in their net. However, I'm not saying it's not something you can't do. I'm just saying be very, very careful with doing that, because if they happen to get a touch, you're both on their half of the field, and more than likely you're going to get scored on. Really didn't have to jump for this, especially since you were technically the last man. If you were going to jump for it, you should have made sure you knew where the ball was going to go. So right here, given that you were headed back towards your side of the field, should have been able to predict that, or you should predict that the ball is going to bounce in the direction of your net versus straight out. And then you should also be able to tell that, the harder you hit the ball, the harder it'll bounce. The softer you hit the ball, the softer it'll bounce, etc. So depending on how hard the ball is going to bounce into the wall will vary how hard the ball bounces off the wall, whether it bounces out, down, whatever. Really, probably shouldn't have gone for this. Even if you did hit this, you wouldn't have really done much with it, except for hit it towards their corner. Also, it was risky because you had no boost. Flipped a little early into that. Make sure you're centering yourself on the ball, which you were for the most part. You just flipped pretty early. Well, I guess you were pretty far to the side of the ball there. Again, with going back, you're going really, really slow. You could be flipping a net to save boost. Gotta try and get back as fast as you can so you can support your teammate. Shouldn't have been going for that boost with your teammate in the corner. One good touch on the opponent's behalf would have been a goal. Could have been a goal. Oh, can't stop yawning. You had ball cam off, which is okay, but you didn't know where the ball was at all. I would have been turning on and off ball cam to be able to see where the ball was going. Not sure why you turned off ball cam there. This situation, I definitely would have kept going up the wall versus driving to your net. It's too risky to just let it roll towards your net, even if it meant just barely popping it off your wall. You didn't need to flip into this. You could have just drove into it with some boost and it would have just popped into the air, which is really what you needed in that situation. Again, don't be around your teammate. It's too risky to go for it unless you know they're going back, and there was no knowing if they were going back because they were kind of all over the place, so I don't necessarily blame you for going for that, but you just got to be really careful and try to avoid putting yourself right next to your teammate, because if you're right on top of each other, you're not going to really be able to do anything with the ball or make any sort of play happen unless you get something lucky to happen. So ultimately, make sure you're utilizing your cameras, looking around to see where people are. Try to predict your play and try to predict where the ball is going to be when you're going for it versus going for it where it is at that period of time. Avoid rushing your shots to an extent. I don't mean slow down to the point where you're taking too much time. I'm just saying slow down enough to where if you think about the fact that that very first goal that you all got, you could have scored that if you just turned off ball cam and let it roll off your car into the net, knowing that the opponent's teammate was AFK and the other guy went for boost, so you had an open net for a really long period of time. Could have scored that pretty quickly. And then the last thing that I can actually think of right now is to remember to rush back to help your teammate. You just kind of leisurely drive back to net when you're on a defensive position and you leave your teammate in a 2v1 or leave an open net, depending on the situation. And if you're not rushing back to net, then what are you doing? You're just kind of taking a Sunday drive, So just make sure you're going back as quickly as you can to support your teammate. And then, like I said, with predicting the plays, there was one period of time towards the middle of the game that you turned to challenge the ball as you're rotating back, which is okay, but you didn't need to, especially since you were last man. The fact that you missed made it very, very open net, especially since your teammate was still on the other half, the opponent's half of the field. So if the opponents hadn't missed, you would have been scored on because you left the net open instead of playing it safe. But that's about all I got, man. If you have any further questions, please contact me in the hashtag General Coach Chat, as well as request help with mechanics. Just throw me an say @Inheritor. Yo, I'm looking to learn such and such mechanics. So let's say the half flip. I want to learn how to do the half flip. When will you be available to do that? And then we'll work something out. So please feel free to utilize that as well. But other than that, that's all I got for you, man. I wish you the best of luck with your games, and yeah, I'll catch you next time. Deuces.